Alright, so I'm back here with another video, and as you guys see from the title is gonna go, I'm pretty much paraphrasing here, but working out is the perfect metaphor for life. Now, before I get started with that topic, I just want to say, at the time of recording, there are these crazy wildfires going on in Canada right now, and it's to the point that we're just getting a bunch of smoke and smog and air pollution hitting New York right now. So I don't know if you guys could tell. It looks pretty hazy out here. It's to the point now that I could even smell the smoke. So I'm gonna try to make this video go as fast as possible. But as far as making these B-size videos, I kind of been in a flow state right now. And I just been coming up with ideas and concepts and stuff like that. And it's to the point that this topic, like, I was gonna hit that like later down the line, but like I had like a bunch of points written down for this specific topic, so I was like, fuck it, might as well. So yeah, of course, I'm gonna be looking at my list because I tend to go off on tangents and stuff like that. But yeah, this is just a topic that's come full circle. Like it always comes up in conversations. Like whenever I'm talking to people who like want to try something, like learn an instrument, put out like a zine, or like start a band, or just like start working out or start doing anything, like this is a topic that comes up continually. Time and time again it comes up because like when you're building a skill, like the gym is quite literally the perfect metaphor for life. And that's what I mean by it being the perfect metaphor, is because like the process of like building a physique or like reaching your goals in fitness, it it could be applied to learning anything, any type of new skill. And it's crazy. So I'm gonna go through the points, of course, but like just for a little bit of context. So like I'm a person who like from a young age I've always just tried stuff and did stuff, you know. I think it's because like my parents, especially my mom, encouraged me to just like try new things, and then eventually I got good at those things. But I want to say for me, it started when I was about 9 years old. Like I want to say I was 8 or 9 years old because my mom, she actually used to play bass back in the day. Like she wasn't in any bands or anything, but she would just play bass for fun. And like we had this bass. Like it's a brand that's discontinued, but it was like a vintage like jazz bass. Like to the point that like when my mom got it fixed up, the person who like fixed it up for her wanted to buy that bass for like thousands of dollars, and my mom said no because of sentimental value and stuff like that. But before then, before I started learning how to play bass, my older brother was playing drums. And my older brother now, he's like a crazy drummer. Like he's known as like one of the best drummers in our local scene and stuff like that. But he started playing drums like real young. And then like him learning an instrument wanted me to learn it. Like it made me want to learn an instrument. But I didn't want to just play drums like he did. I wanted to like, like make my own mark, like have my own stamp. I'm like, okay, this is his thing, but this is my thing. So I started learning how to play bass, right? And yeah, and this is when I learned that like everybody is different with like how they learn skills, you know? So like for me, I'm the type of person where I really, really, really have to apply myself to the point that like I might like go a few months without really seeing any significant progress. But like once I do start to see progress, it starts to like snowball type of thing. But my older brother, he's someone who could just like be nice as fuck at something pretty damn fast. So like, he was learning drums, and obviously he wasn't good, but like to like my untrained ear as like a 9-year old, I thought he was a beast. And eventually he started getting really good. And once I started playing the bass, like he got so good at drums that he just started like picking up other instruments. And like he learned the bass, he was just playing it casually, but like him playing it casually, he made more progress playing it casually than I did like really, really applying myself. Like to the point that like he learned, I think it was Before I Forget by Slipknot. Like this is how early we're talking. Like I wasn't even like into death metal at that point, or like really into like extreme heavy music. I was like just starting out like getting into heavy music. And music is my background, so like a lot of this stuff I always tie back to music. But yeah, like he learned how to play Before I Forget by Slipknot, and I was sitting here like struggling on like, not putting enough pressure on the frets to where like the frets just sound all buzzed and not good. Like I was still learning the mechanics of how to play the bass, like the right stance, the right form, stuff like that. And he's like learning full fledged songs, and I was fucking tight. I was tight, but like that just goes to show that like some people are just like really good at learning stuff pretty fast, but other people have to apply themselves. And I learned that pretty fast, and like knowing that and accepting that about myself, it just set my mind at ease to where like I'll like try something and know that there's gonna be a period where like it's gonna take me a minute to like really grasp and really learn that thing, and eventually the progress will come, but it's not gonna come for a while. But to tie that back to the gym, it was like later in life. And it's funny because it's not even that later in life. Like I was like 8 or 9 years old learning the bass, but like by the time I was like 13, I started to want to work out because my pops, he was like always working out. He was always in the gym, and even to the point that like he would like bench press like in the garage while like me and my brothers were playing outside and stuff like that. And seeing him work out, and of course being a fan of like WWE and wrestling and stuff like that, like as soon as I could work out, I wanted to do that. And it's crazy because like I want to say these past 4 or 5 years, like working out has like really exploded. Like there's like a shit ton of fitness content on TikTok and Instagram, a lot of fitness influencers going crazy, and of course like that was a niche on YouTube. It was a niche in content creation, but like I feel like in like 2022, 2023, there was like a lot of this revitalized energy around working out to the point that it felt like a whole new generation of people wanted to work out. And it was crazy because I was like, I've been working out since I was like 13 or 14 years old, but like I was seeing people who I went to high school with who like were never athletic or like really into the gym, like pulling up to the gym and working out. So like I feel like fitness is like a really good metaphor for it, and I'm going to get to that point because in fitness, as we all know, or like if you're into fitness, you know, but if you're not, you might not know. But as we all know, like in fitness, you're gonna start working out, but you're not gonna see much progress at all. Like you're really not gonna see progress for at least 4 to 5 months. Like you're gonna be putting in this work, and yeah, like your strength might build, but as far as like your physique wise and your body composition, you're really not gonna see progress. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it just skyrockets. It literally just like your progress just shoots up, and I think that's what they call baby gains. And I definitely had that experience working out, and like that's why to me it's the perfect metaphor for life, because when you're working out, like working out is the perfect metaphor, because when you work out it goes through like each and every step of building a skill. I don't even know if I'm explaining it right, but working out truly is the perfect metaphor for life, because like every phase of working out you could apply that to learning any skill, and it'll go the exact same way. Like the trajectory one has when working out and first starting to work out and first starting to get consistent and build a routine and like slowly making gains and working out for like 4 or 5, 6 months and not seeing progress, but I don't know, we're seeing an incredible amount of progress. You could apply that to literally learning any skill, learning any instrument, making beats, learning how to rap, learning how to sew, learning how to, I think the word is crochet, learning how to crochet and like sew and like visual design, just video editing, even like any skill that you want to build. Working out is the perfect metaphor for that, because working out follows the same trajectory of working out, follows the same trajectory of building literally any skill, because like I said, you spend months and months and months grinding, putting in work, but not seeing results. And then out of nowhere, it just starts to skyrocket. And then that's what they call baby gains. And then once it skyrockets, like your body composition just literally changes. Because for me, I've been working out since I was 13 years old, and I only really taken like a 2 month break in between like fucking like 10, 11, 12 years of working out. And that was due to like injuries and like, just being depressed and not wanting to, if I'm keeping it a bug. But yeah, like you see your whole body composition change, because like before, when I was like 13 years old, I was the same height I was now. Like I went through my growth spurt relatively early, but I was skinny as hell. So I was the same height, just like real tall, skinny and slender. And like slowly I saw my body composition start to change to where like I started to fill out. I started to fill out in shirts. And that just like really, really boosted my confidence. And like working out is something that like I just hold dear to my heart, and it's not even just about like looking good. It's about just like, you know, the mental health, like the positive impact it has on your mental health and like stress relief and stuff like that. But then like talking to people who like, cause it's crazy, cause I think that's another point too. Like there's just like when a bird just passed by. But when I was a kid and I was just trying stuff and learning stuff, like I feel like some people like they're not, everybody's raised differently, so some people aren't like encouraged to try new stuff as like new things as a kid, or like encouraged to like learn new skills as a kid. So like they become adults basically, they never really built that skill. And you talk, like I've talked to people all the time who like, for example, wanted to make beats, or like wanted to get into photography, or even like get into DJing. Like you could apply it to anything, and they'll say like, they're just sit, and this actually goes back to the last video about retard action, but they literally sit there for months and months and months thinking to themselves, yeah, I want to do this, but then contemplating doing it, like, yo, like I don't, to where it's like they never spent that time like in the trenches of learning a skill, where you're just putting in all this work and watching all these tutorials and really trying to like make progress but not seeing any of it. And like you have to push through that gray area. And it's like these are friends that I have who like they go to the gym, and that's why I'll use that metaphor, because like I said, like fitness has like skyrocketed in popularity these past 4 or 5 years. So these are people I'll talk to in the gym, and they'll want to like venture into doing other stuff and being like, oh, but I don't know. And I'll like use the example of like the gym, where I'm like, bro, like when you first started going to the gym, you weren't making serious gains, you weren't seeing much progress, right? And literally they'll sit there and they'll be like, no, and I'll be like, yeah. And that's exactly how it is, like learning how to play the guitar. Like you're gonna sit there and learn the fundament you're gonna sit there and learn the fundamentals of the craft, but you're not gonna be able to play all these songs that you know and love, or you're not gonna be able to learn a solo, or you're not even gonna be able to learn a full song yet. But you're sitting there learning these fundamentals, learning the right positions, learning these scales, learning the notes, and then like you just have to stick at it. You just have to stick to it. And you just have to keep going and persist. Like and I know it's corny and I know it's cliche, but literally like that's how it was in the gym. Because I remember even like by the time I was getting out of high school, it's funny because when I was in high school, I wasn't even that big. I still had like my home gym set up, and I wasn't even like making serious gains. I was probably like benching like 125 pounds or something like that. I had a pull-up bar, a dip bar, and a barbell and a bench setup, and that's it. So I would literally do arm curls, tricep curls, military presses. I would just do as many variations on that single barbell as humanly possible. So I wasn't even that big is the point. But like by the time I was like 18, like first graduating high school, like friends of mine were like starting to get into the gym, and I would sit them down, but like not literally sit them down, but I would literally sit them down and be like, like especially my friends who were on the skinnier side, who still had like a decent amount of like muscle on them, because I had no muscle when I started. But these were friends who like they had some definition, so I sit them down and be like, yo, like you have a solid foundation, because you have like low body fat, but you have like a decent amount of mass just from like you know working out in school, or like doing push-ups and stuff like that. And I would tell them like, bro, you're not gonna see that much progress until like 5 to 6 months in. But like I'm like, dude, like just keep at it, just keep at it, and then you're gonna start seeing it like fucking skyrocket, go crazy out of nowhere. Because it's like that. I think they use it in finances where it's like compound interest, but like yeah, it's literally like slow wins that build up over time, and then all of a sudden it just comes out of nowhere. And then before you know it, you look in the mirror and you're like, damn, like I'm built. Like I have like triceps now. Like bro, I remember when I first started working out and using weights. I remember when my tricep developed. I dead ass asked my mom. I was like, yo, like what is this? I got this bump on my arm. She was like, that's your tricep, baby. And I'm like, okay, all right, like I'm making serious progress now. But it's like the point being is that like the trajectory, the phases, like the timeline of making gains is the timeline of learning any skill. Learning any skill, you're gonna go through that period. And I think that's why I'm like, I wanted to make this video, and that's why I want to drive it home, is because there are like some people out there who like they just they, I guess, they weren't raised to like try new things, or like encouraged to like try new things, or maybe they had like and I know like I've had like older cousins in my ear like, bro, like you're like I don't know if it's a thing in just like like immigrant communities, but it's like, like the older brother or the older sibling being like, yo, like you suck, bro, like straight up telling me that I suck, and like of course, like, we were all kids, so I'm not like, I don't harp on that. I don't like hold that against them because we were all just kids, you know what I mean? But like, you have people in your ear telling you like, yo, like you suck, like, like damn man, like, you're slacking, but it's like saying like, no, like, I'm gonna keep going, like, no, like I know I'm gonna get to that point where like I'm a good guitarist or I'm a good bassist, and it's even crazy because like I'm not even like super nice at everything that I do, but I just like try shit, and then like the skill ends up building over time. Because the same thing happened, like for those who don't know, like I do vocals in a hardcore band, and like I've been doing vocals, because I was talking about Slipknot before. So like by the time I was like fifth grade going into sixth grade, which is like 11 to 12 years old, I started getting into like Sepultura and like Cannibal Corpse and Dying Fetus and Napalm Death and like Suffocation, and I just really started like getting into extreme music because like even like, you're influenced by your brothers. Like my older brother was listening to heavy shit, and I was like, no, I want to listen to heavier shit. I want to really push it, right? So then like growing up, like my dad was always working and my mom would work too, but like it got to a point where it was just like, sometimes like she'd go out and we'd be home by ourselves for like an hour or something like that. So like one day like we were blasting, I think it was like Suicide Silence. Like cuz we used to have this we used to have like Verizon Files, and we used to have on Music Choice. You could play it on demand, like a bunch of different videos. So we were playing the video for Disengaged by Suicide Silence. And I remember like literally I just tried to like match his scream, and then like I hit it. I hit what the scream was, and I was like, oh shit. And then like after that I started like really trying to do vocals, and like for a long time like I would hit the note or hit the right technique, but it wasn't consistent. I do vocals and it wouldn't sound good, but then sometimes I would hit it just right, and then it would come out sounding full, come out sounding like just nasty. And then like I just kept at it, and eventually like those moments of it sounding pretty good just became like the regular thing, to where like I would do it and I would like do the technique right and hit that note in a certain way to where it would be consistent. And then I was practicing like every day. Like it was to the point that like my mom, like she was into like Metallica and Megadeth, and like she was into like thrash metal in the 80s and stuff like that. So she was like type encouraging when it came to like, being into metal and stuff like that. Like she was still like pretty religious, so she would like not like the satanic imagery and stuff like that, but she explained to us that like, it's just a gimmick. Like, they don't take it for real. Like, we still believe in God. Like, we're still Catholics and stuff like that. So yeah, so like she would let us like, scream. So like after school, I would like practice my vocals in the basement, and it would be muffled, so like you wouldn't really hear it like too bad. But then eventually, I just started getting really nice, and it was like at that point I was pretty nice at bass, but I just like kind of stopped playing bass because like the main focus was vocals. And like literally from learning bass to doing vocals to working out in the gym, hell, to even like making content and like video editing, like bro, like my first video on my main channel is on the life and death of Capital Steez, Long Live Stilo. And that was a video I wanted to make for years. And like it got like a good amount of views. I think it's like my second or third most viewed video on that channel. But the editing is just not good. Like, that was the first time I really sat down and edited, and like I had some type of basis. I don't know if you hear that. There's like a big plane, but I had like some type of basis of video editing, and that too. Like, I think it just rubbed off on me because my family, because like my older brother would like fuck around on like video editing softwares, like making stupid skits or making like crazy edits, like YouTube poops, like First Boys and stuff like that. So like we had like Sony Vegas downloaded on our computer, right? And I would just like fuck around on it. I had an old, like my first YouTube channel. I think I made it in like 2009. And I dead ass called myself Headbanger from Hell 89. And I would just like make stupid videos like, yo, the top 10 heavy songs of all time, or the top 10 bass solos in metal, or like just like uploading, like taking the CDs and putting it on Windows Movie Maker or Sony Vegas and just like uploading full albums on YouTube. Like I was like one of those people in like 2010, 2011. But the point being is that even if I didn't have that background and like fucking around on like video editing softwares, like I would still try to edit videos, you know what I mean? I would still just like take that leap forward because it's like I know I'm gonna be editing videos and I know the first few videos aren't gonna be good or like I'm not gonna know all the tricks and stuff like that. But as you keep doing it, as you keep on looking up, okay, how do I do this? Or like how do I take the sound off of a video or how do I add a picture on top of a video or like all these different things, you build up this skill set and then eventually before you know it, like you're a great video editor or you're a great vocalist or a great bassist or hell, you made great progress in the gym and you like really know your shit when it comes to fitness and know the right way to hit your tries or like the right form to deadlift or the right form to squat or like how to properly bench press in order to like truly activate your chest and like all these different things. Like literally working out is the best metaphor I've seen for building a skill. It's the best metaphor for life because honestly, like in life, we do build these skills, whether we're forced to, like through jobs or working or like, learning how to do a job that you don't have any experience in, or like whether it's a hobby or even just like simply put, like learning how to read. Like learning how to read, like I'm dead serious. So like I've been reading on and off since like I was like in high school, and like these past like 3 years, I've just been really locked in with reading, and just reading whenever I can, whenever I have downtime and stuff like that. Cause learning is everything. It really is. It really just expands your mind, all that like spiritual like woo woo third eye shit. But yeah, like even like I'd be on dates with girls and I'd be talking to them about reading or I'd be talking to my friends about reading and they'd be like, yo, like I wish I could do that, but like, I just get so distracted or I just can't pay attention. And I'm like, dude, you're not gonna be able to read like if you haven't read on your own, like you've only read in school and the last time you read when you were in high school, like 6 7 years ago, like of course you're not gonna be good at it. And I think that's why working out is the perfect metaphor for like life and building a skill because like bro, like people expect to be good at something as soon as they do it. And it's like I don't really understand why. You know what I mean? Maybe I do understand why. Maybe it's just because they never really like sat there and like tried to build a skill, but the point still stands. Like people expect to learn a new skill and like be good at it as soon as they do it. And I'd be sitting there and telling people like you're not gonna be able to like read a full page and like retain that within your first time. You might have to reread paragraphs, or even like me when I was reading when I first started reading, and even still I do it now because now I be reading books that are like a little more dense. But like even then, like you might have to look up words, and it's like I be telling people like don't feel dumb for that, like I still do that shit. But it's like the point being is I don't know if it's an ego thing or I don't even know if it's just like a lack of experience, but like people expect to like learn something and be good at it. And here's the thing, for some reason in the gym, they know. Like in the gym, everybody knows that like yo, they're not gonna start working out and be this fucking bodybuilder beast or just know how to do everything. For some reason, like with skill building, the gym is the only exception where people like humble themselves and understand like okay, like I'm not gonna be good at this thing for a while, and then they just keep going, and then slowly but surely they start getting better, and then before they know it, they're like fitness is a lifestyle for them. Fitness is just what they do. It's like fully integrated into their day to day lives, and it's like if they would have just gave up, it's it's literally like the meme of the person mining. You know what I'm talking about. It's the meme with the person mining and then they walk away, but then they're so close to hitting that threshold and they're so close to like hitting diamonds. Like it's the same thing with like skill building. You have to get over that little hurdle. You have to just keep going and like it's all relative, there's some people who are like fast gainers in the gym to where they can work out like 2 to 3 months, and because of genetics or whatever the case may be, they just start getting progress like as soon as they go. And me, like I have like pretty decent genetics as far as like my physique and like making gains and stuff like that. So I'm like now I'm definitely a fast gainer, but it took me about a year because I was so young and I wasn't even like using weights at that time. It was all calisthenics, and I was so skinny that I couldn't even do a pull up. I had to like sit there and do like 5 sets of 20, 100 push-ups a day in order to like get the upper body strength to actually do a pull-up. And then I could do two pull-ups, and then I could do five, and then I could do 10, and I could do chin-ups, then I could do dips, and then I could do all these different things. And then I started using weights. But I feel like a grown man or a grown woman, like you could just start using weights. Like you don't have to do all that. So like yeah, it took me a year to like really see progress. Some people it might take them 6 months. Some people it might even take them a year. Some people it might take 2 months. Like it's really all relative. But like you have to like go through that gray area period. That's always how I described it. And it's crazy because I guess I'm using the metaphor here, but I always pictured me making a video about the gray area when building a skill, but like I guess this is just the way that like I contextualize it now. But like you do have to get over that gray area to where like you're trying to do something or trying to be something, but it's like things are coming together and like you're applying yourself, but it's not all the way there yet. Like in any skill, like that's just like a necessary fact. That's a necessary evil, and it's gonna pay off in the long run. Gotta drink that water, man. But yeah, it's definitely gonna pay off in the long run. And I think that's the point. The point is that people understand it inherently with working out. Like they know they're not gonna be in the gym. They're not gonna like just start working out and become like this tank, become this monster, or like for women like build their lower body and like get rid of their like stomach fat and like get really toned. Because everybody has different fitness goals, but with everything else, people expect it. Because even like with me, like I meditate, and like it does come up in conversation a lot, and even like some of my friends, like when you're that close to someone, like they could admit like, yo, my mental health hasn't been that good lately, and like I'll be telling them like, yo, bro, meditate, because like that really like meditating really helps me with like intrusive thoughts, and it helps me just like be more present and be more mindful and like really just taking a moment instead of just like thoughts going everywhere, or like I'm out with someone and like I'm always on my phone. Like meditating helps me just to be incredibly present in the moment, and it probably helps me with speaking, just getting my thoughts together. But even with meditating, that's like another example where like I'll talk to people about it, and I'll talk to my friends about it, and they'll be like, "Yeah, I tried it, but like I just can't I just can't do it. I'm not good at it," or like my thoughts just go crazy. And I explain to them the concept of like mindfulness, where it's not about like clearing your head completely, but it's about like the attempt of like clearing your head, but then you might think of something, but bring your attention back to your breath. You bring your attention back to like clearing your head, as opposed to like all these random thoughts going. It's quite literally the skill of building that muscle. And I think that's why working out is a perfect example for like building a skill and life, because it's like, you work that muscle, but it takes time to like truly be built, you know? And it's like don't rush the process, really don't. And I think that's pretty much it, because it could be applied to like quite literally anything. Probably a bunch of things that like hasn't even come up in my head, like a bunch of skills that like people want to learn. But like I said, you do go through those times, you go through those phases where it's like you're putting in all the effort, you're putting in all the attention, you're putting in all the focus, but things are just not coming all together yet. But you literally just have to like stay in that gray area, and like before you know it, you might not even realize it, but that physique will be built. That skill will be built. You will be a good video editor. Even me, like my first video, and granted, like that video's not gonna come out until my album comes out, because it has to do with the creative process and what I learned making that album. But that first video, I was saying and like and yeah and so many times, to the point that like I had to like cut out a lot of it. I had to cut out a lot of it. And like now, especially since I'm hitting this flow state, like it's becoming so much better for me to like for thought to come into words, for me to just be riffing, ad libbing, not even thinking. Like I'm not even thinking right now. Like I'm completely in a flow state. But then like you do it a handful of times, and then you get accustomed to it, you get used to it, and it becomes natural. It becomes more natural, And I think that's the thing, is that the point being is that the gym is a perfect metaphor for building a skill and life. Building a skill is the trajectory, is the timeline of making gains. To where you're gonna sit there and you're not gonna make progress for mad long. But then out of nowhere you meet that threshold and it literally just skyrockets. And then you build up this skill, and then while you're building up that skill and while you're skyrocketing, you're picking up on all these little tricks and all these little things that like really round it out and bring it together, like, and working out would be like your form, it would be like your technique, it would be like the time under tension, not rushing these sets, but like let it, truly feeling that squeeze and all that. Like that's how it is for building any skill. You're gonna go through that gray period to where you're not good, but you're still doing it. But eventually you're gonna get good. And with everything that I've tried in life, with everything that I learned in life, no exceptions, that's the trajectory. And like I said, some people might just be like naturals to where they could just apply themselves and see progress really fast. My older brother's like that, and that was intimidating for me growing up, but I just had to come to terms with and accept the fact that I am a slow learner, but I'm a learner no less. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I got to say. Because at this point I'll probably end up rambling on and on and on and repeating the same point all over again. But if you like that video, comment, subscribe, all that type of stuff. If you like video essays, check out my main channel. And yeah, peace. Enjoy the rest of your day. We out here.